Hi everyone, welcome to Poetry Podcast, where we uncover all that is wonderful about poetry and just vibe. So grab a coffee, a cup of tea, or a blunt and settle in for a cozy dive into the world of poetry. I'm your host, Madeline Fisher, and this is Poetry High Podcast. So for this being my first official podcast episode for Vocalize and Vibe, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, who I am, my journey as a poet, as well as share some tips. So if you don't already know, my name is Madeline Fisher. I am an author of 3 books, 2 of them poetry books, and I also have 1 Christmas romance novella. A bit about my journey. So once upon a time, on a stale Ohio day, I told my dad, hey, I want to write a book of poetry. So he said, let's do it. And that was back in 2016. And I got together 50 poems and released my book. And to no shock, but to my 15-year-old self, it was a flop. Looking back, I don't really think I cared at the time, but there were many reasons it didn't do well at all. One of them being I was 15 and didn't know that grammatical errors like to jump themselves into the book after you've checked it 3 times. Also, I had no clue about anything with marketing. I didn't know how much marketing was a part of publishing a book and how much effort you really have to put in if you want it to be successful. So fast forward to 2022, I decided to unpublish that book and republish it while also adding 50 poems. I transformed a book from my younger years and turned it into what is now known as Thoughts on Water, Feelings on Sand. I thought it was kind of cool to keep poems I wrote when I was 15 because not only does it let me be able to see the transformation between then and now in my poetry, it also allows other people to see that transformation. For reference of how bad I did the first time around, I think I sold 3 books and they were all from family members. With my new book and new marketing efforts, I've sold 146 copies of my new book. I also recently released my new poetry book in October of this year, and it's been absolutely amazing. The opportunities I've had were ones I couldn't imagine ever achieving. I got to do my first book signing event at a bookstore. Little me would be so proud. But as far as marketing, geez, what to say about that? So I started my Instagram account, which is my social choice, in 2023. I've had multiple accounts before then, but never got far. I wanted to delete and restart, but yeah. So with my current Instagram account, I remember in February, in 2024, I was stuck at 500 followers, and I had been stuck at 500 followers for a long while. Partly it was my lack of effort to really widen and communicate and network. I think I was also just getting the feel and plan for how I was going to market. You really have to make an effort to talk with people, reach out to people, promote your book, post about your book, follow people in your community, all that and much more. It can definitely get overwhelming and sometimes it seems pointless, but I promise it's not. I went from being stuck at 500 followers, fast forward to now, and I'm at 1,800 something, so almost to 2,000. And let me tell you, reaching just 1K was my dream for the longest time. I would look at other accounts with that many followers and tell myself, like, there's no way I'm going to get there. There's so many people and I'm so far away, but it's not true. Every number will seem big to you when you haven't made it to that point yet, but it's achievable. Follow, comment, network, post, and if you can, run ads. If you do this consistently over a period of time, I promise your account will grow. As far as the process of self-publishing and being self-published, obviously it's a little bit more work as far as marketing and creating all of the elements for your book. I feel like at some point I definitely want to be traditionally published, but I feel like at the same time I would have wanted to self-publish at some point regardless, just because of all the creativity control and also the experience that you get and all the knowledge that you gain just from experiencing, the role you're serving is the publisher, you're the author and the publisher. So a lot of cool knowledge that comes with that. I think towards the end of this year or the beginning of next year, I'm definitely going to reserve one of my books I'm working on here and there for submitting to different publishers. And if it doesn't happen, it's not going to crush my hopes and dreams. I'll just self-publish and keep going and growing. But it will come out regardless. Also, another good way to grow as an author is to maybe find something in addition to poetry, some way you can add to your community that you can share with others and grow. So basically, this podcast is pretty much that for me. And I'm hopeful that it opens up new doors and new connections, which it already is. Getting to speak with so many great people and being able to come together through poetry is just amazing. For the purpose of this first episode, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of my own review questions just so you guys can get some more insight, and then that's going to be the end of this episode. So, some challenges I face with being a poet is 1, finding my community and a sea of other writers. 2, marketing. 3, finding my own style and realizing that it's okay to be different than others. And 4, overcoming social anxiety so that I'm able to go to events and stuff like that. I also feel like being a poet in general, so many people will tell you it's not worth it because of how poetry might not be as common as like the romance genre or fantasy genre. It definitely is worth it. And even though it might be a little bit harder, don't listen to anyone who says that. The community is out there and it welcomes people with open arms for sure. Something important I've learned is that it's so easy to downplay yourself. There's that saying, we're our own worst critics, and most times we definitely are. But like when accomplishments come across, it's easy to downplay it and not realize how amazing it is because you got to that point. So it might seem like, oh, if I got to this point, it must not be that big of a deal, but it is. So definitely celebrate every accomplishment. Look back at how many goals you've accomplished and just don't tell yourself it isn't special or big deal, because it is. When I want to learn more about poetry, I usually turn to other works from other poets as well as Writer's Digest website. They have a ton of great resources as well as a list of different forms of poetry challenges and stuff like that. An accomplishment that I'm proud of would be doing my first book signing event. I was definitely nervous, and having social anxiety can make events a little bit harder to navigate, but thankfully my parents and some other people came to support me, which I really appreciated because it definitely makes a difference. And it's crazy how many great things can come out of having a 5-minute conversation with people that come up to your table. That was definitely a new and positive, amazing experience for me. What being a poet means to me outside of just writing is multiple things. 1 is being able to get through life's tragedies and just being able to turn them into something beautiful, into poetry. Also, I think it's important when you have the ability to write poetry to be able to share your experiences through that and help someone else impact people in some way, shape, or form. That's always been my mission from day one, impact the world with my words. And the message I want to put out into the world and through my writing is that you're not alone, you're not worthless, and you are more than enough. There's always a light on the other side of darkness, and if I can help people see that light or even just sit with them in the dark, that's what I'm going to do. And even if you can't find the light, like I said, it's okay. It's okay to feel things and go through things that seem dark and scary. It doesn't make you a crazy person or any less than. And as far as where you guys can find more of my work, my username is Madeline Fisher Poetry on all socials. And then if you Google my name, my author website with Wix should come up. But I will see you guys in the next episode. Alright, that's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to Poetry High Podcast. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to follow and turn on notifications, and have a fantastic week.